These ancient strongholds hide 10 mind-blowing secrets that will change everything you thought you knew. Behind one 2-foot thick walls was a wild mashup of obscene luxury and ruthless survival strategy. The elites wanted comfort so badly they turned medieval castles into the most extravagant greenhouses of their age. In this first episode, we're peeling back 10 jaw-dropping secrets of hidden opulence and lethal design. From riotously painted walls to feasts interrupted by dive-bombing pigeons, royal life was far stranger than you think. Brace yourself, your brain is about to get pleasantly wrecked. Outside, arrow loops and murder holes. Inside, color explosions. Castle walls that look bare today were once drenched in rich reds, lapis blues, and gold leaf. Nobles didn't tolerate drab, they wanted comfort and spectacle. Torchlight made gold leaf flicker like stars, turning night into theater. The heady scent of beeswax and fresh lime wash signaled constant upkeep and deep pockets. Painters refreshed schemes seasonally, repainting saints and heraldry when faded, so visitors always met a new hall. Patronage lists read like power ledgers, who got to paint which wall, and whose emblem was granted a prime position. Even the sequence of murals along a corridor told a story about alliances, victories, and claims to land. Even floors Flex status imported patterned tiles from across Europe shouted wealth to every guest who crossed the gate. Glazed designs were durable under boots and easy to scrub after feasts. Thresholds inlaid with heraldry turned every step into a reminder of ownership and rank. Some chambers mixed encaustic tiles with polished stone borders to create carpets that never wore out. In private apartments, woven rush mats were replaced frequently to keep scents fresh, a quiet luxury few outside the elite could afford. Floor levels stepped subtly between rooms to mark status divides. Stumble as a newcomer, and every eye clocked your ignorance. The ground you walked on was a speech about hierarchy that never stopped talking. Want the clearest badge of elite comfort? Windows. Why did window glass cost more than gold by weight and turn castles into medieval greenhouses? The top castles flaunted glazed windows' ultimate luxury. In an era when glassmaking was brutally complex, panes could be dearer than gold by weight. While commoners chose between freezing drafts or choking shutters, castle dwellers basked in light and relative warmth. Wavy crown glass scattered sunlight into ripples that animated tapestries and faces. Lead came stitched small panes into geometric lattices, so even tiny windows looked like jeweled screens. In south-facing rooms, the effect was theatrical morning light washed walls in liquid silver, then warmed to honey by noon. Seasonal shutters were lined with fabric and fur to seal night cold, and servants tracked which casements rattled most in the wind. A window wasn't merely a hole in stone, it was a machine for mood, status, and health. To fight Europe's cold, cavernous hearths burned like furnaces, sometimes swallowing whole tree trunks tended day and night all winter. Imagine the fuel, labor, and logistics to keep that glow alive. A faltering fire invited damp and illness, a roaring one kept morale and lungs steady. Estates mapped coppice rotations decades ahead and trained teams to split, season, and stack by airflow. Ash, oak, and hornbeam were burned in planned sequences to balance heat, output, and soot. Ember management was an art. A single guard could nurse coals under ash so the next shift revived flames in seconds. Chimney sweeps and masons had permanent work keeping flues clear, because a blocked throat could smoke out an entire wing. Heating the castle was a campaign as relentless as any siege. Big hearths, bigger rooms. To keep heat in, nobles leaned on something we think is pure decor, an insulation hack in disguise. Those grand wall hangings weren't just pretty. In rooms big enough to swallow 3 modern houses, tapestries were windstoppers and heat blankets. They turned stone refrigerators into livable spaces, high-tech without electricity. Courts even traveled with favorite sets and rehung comfort wherever the lord slept. Each series worked like a graphic novel, hunt scenes across one wall, saints' miracles on the next, so guests read prestige while warming up. Touch mattered. Wool, silk, and gold thread caught torchlight and deadened echoes in the same breath. Workshops kept pattern books and dye recipes guarded like state secrets, because a failed dye bath could ruin a fortune. When a new heir arrived, families commissioned panels as propaganda, weaving legitimacy into the walls themselves. They absorbed moisture and buffered temperature, creating a soft barrier between breath and stone. Layer tapestries over timber paneling and add rush mats, and you had a medieval R-value stack. The hush they created also made quiet deals and whispers far easier. Night Watch clipped hangings back from torches with little hooks to prevent flare-ups, and stewards rotated pieces to rest the fibers. Fumigation rituals, cedar, smoke, herbs kept moths from reducing dynasties to frayed strings. When famine or war hit, nobles pawned or ransomed sets, so inventories of hangings doubled as emergency banks. A castle's textile store was both wardrobe and wallet. All that warmth and pageantry converged in the Great Hall, where sliding one chair could reboot your career. The Great Hall was the castle's heart. Feasts, law, diplomacy, politics. Banquet boards could stretch nearly 100 feet, feeding hundreds. Seating charts were battle maps of reputation. Even the placement of salt cellars drew an invisible border between important and forgettable. Heralds curated entrances so allies arrived to applause and rivals to measured silence. The ritual of hand-washing at ewers and basins wasn't just hygiene, it marked who touched food first and who waited. Lighting cues, extra tapers near the dais, dimmer pools elsewhere steered attention, like spotlights do today. Every performance in the hall rewrote pecking orders a hair's breadth at a time. Seating was status. Every inch closer to the Lord meant rank. Shift the wrong chair, and you risked more than side-eye protocol had teeth. Musicians set the temperature of the room, and a sharp-witted fool could deflate a feud before blades flashed. Clerks recorded gifts and grievances mid-feast, so nothing said in wine's warmth got lost by morning. Petitions were slipped between courses, favors were granted with a nod and a trencher of venison. Doors to buttery and pantry were pressure valves, routes for discreet exits if tempers snapped. In a world of swords, the most dangerous cut was sometimes a snub. Still, elite dining had uninvited aerial guests, the feathery kind. While lords sipped expensive imported wine, pigeons sometimes swooped through smoke vents, sowing chaos from above. Kitchens fought back with nets and trained hawks, but vents had to vent. Timing the carving between wing flurries became a strangely practical skill. Soot drifted down like dark snow, peppering linen and pride alike, and junior servants learned lightning-fast napkin rescues. Falconers bragged of strike rates the way knights bragged of tourney wins, but birds always found a way. On bad weather days, the ceiling felt alive coups, scrapes, and the occasional catastrophic plop. Feasting under rafters was glamour wrapped around barnyard reality. Even in opulence, medieval life stayed stubbornly inconvenient. Grand architecture still had hygiene and control gaps you could drive a hawk through. Ironically, dovecotes meant the same birds could be pie-filling the next day. Manure was gathered for gardens, feathers for cushions, so nothing went to waste. The porous boundary between pest and resource was a medieval superpower, turning nuisance into nutrition. Ventilation also kept fire risk down, so some mess was the price of safety. The castle breathed, and sometimes it hiccuped. Put the birds aside, military purpose ruled everything, even pretty openings. Elegant arched windows sat high, keeping enemy arrows out while letting light in a balancing act between beauty and survival. Deep splays gave defenders wide firing angles, while outsiders saw only a slit. By day they were reading nooks, by night they became archer perches. Benches inside embrasures stored bolts and stones, and shutters snapped into place with iron dogs when alarms rang. A single trumpet could turn a gossip corner into a kill box in heartbeats. Stonemasons tuned angles to ricochet shots downward, making the approach a misery zone. Geometry smiled for friends and scowled for foes. Castle builders fused deadly design with showy wealth. Aesthetics never undermined defense. Glazing could be removed or shuttered the moment siege talk spread. Silk could drape stone, but iron still waited underneath. Decorative tracery masked stout bars, and carved saints guarded apertures as if holiness itself were armor. In rebuilding seasons, masons widened internal splays for more maneuver, while keeping external faces mean and narrow. The result was a two-faced window, friendly from within, hostile from without. Beauty, but only on our terms. The strategy wasn't just in walls, it spiraled through the staircases. Trusted advisors sat with backs to the wall, no one sneaks up on the brain trust. Cupbearers acted as human firewalls against poison, trained to test and watch faces. Even the route a platter took told you who was in favor. Carvers performed like surgeons, showcasing cuts for the dais first to telegraph honor. Eye lines were managed so a lord could see a rival's reaction at the exact moment a message landed. Hand signals under the table carried orders across the room without a word. Dinner was delicious theater with a security budget. Risky guests were placed where every eye could track them, center floor or opposite the lord. Dining doubled as security theater. The safest seat was sometimes the humblest one, near a door and beneath notice. Minstrels masked soft conversations. A mistimed joke could expose a plot as faces tightened. Stewards kept mental maps of grudges to avoid seeding powder next to sparks. Even the speed of serving ale was calibrated to soothe or sharpen tempers. In the Great Hall, cutlery wasn't the only thing kept carefully aligned. Now for the staircase, a dizzying home field advantage. Most spiral stairs twist clockwise, going up on purpose. Right-handed attackers had sword arms cramped by the central newel. Defenders coming down had room to swing. Narrow inner treads funneled invaders into single file that one shield could stall. Landings were offset to deny clear charges, and arrow slits above them punished pauses. Buckets of sand, oil, or even dried peas could be dumped to turn steps slick without destroying stone. In armor, a slip meant a cascade of men and metal, a disaster in steel. The stair itself fought for the garrison long before steel met steel. Architecture was a weapon that never slept. No handrails meant lost balance, and bruised knuckles did half the work. Echoes turned shouts into confusion, while fear did the rest. Guard alcoves cut into newels, let defenders stab and vanish like ghosts. Torches threw chaotic shadows that made depth judgment a liar, especially for strangers. The climbing rhythm, left, right, tighter, tighter drained stamina, while defenders were fresh. A spiral was a corset that squeezed the assault until it gasped. And some stairs hid a nastier trick, subtle trip trap. Some castles varied riser heights within the same stair. Residents learned the rhythm. Invaders didn't. In Torchlight, a half-inch difference hides inside a moving shadow, and armor multiplies the stumble. Builders also shaved tread noses to catch toes right where momentum peaked. Panic amplified tiny errors, turning a misjudged step into a knee-buckling collapse. One man down meant men behind crashed, 2 domino armor in a stone tube. The design punished boldness and rewarded memory. One misstep in combat, and you'd tumble faster than a knight after 8 cups of mead. At Conwy Castle in Wales, centuries of wear whisper the warning, watch your step. If the fall didn't finish you, the murder holes above probably would. Boiling water, hot sand, or stones turned a stumble into a sentence. Dogleg turns forced shields out of position just as volleys rained down. The stair wasn't scenery, it was a judge with very short patience. Attackers learned humility at high speed. A few fortresses even flipped the design for a secret weapon left-handed defenders. Roughly 1-inch 10 knights were left-handed. Some castles included rare counterclockwise staircases reserved for southpaw defenders. Captains posted lefties there like loading a cheat code. On those stairs, the wrong-handed fighter suddenly had space to cut and thrust, while right-handers cramped. Training halls drilled both directions for elite guards, but most armies never bothered. Rumors of a reverse stair were enough to stall an assault while commanders rethought plans. Geometry picked favorites, and lefties finally got theirs. For those few, the angles flipped in their favor. These stairways weren't decor, they were built-in weapons deciding life or death. Sometimes the rumor of a reverse stair alone bought the garrison precious minutes of panic. Siege maps circled these coils in red, with extra reserves assigned just in case. A single southpaw on home geometry could hold a landing like a cork in a bottle. When every heartbeat mattered, the floor plan itself did the killing. Castles didn't just shelter fighters, they manufactured advantages. As you've seen, medieval castles weren't boring stone boxes. They were mashups of luxury, strategy, and sinister surprises. And we've only cracked the first 10 facts. Next episode, we'll dive inside those thick walls, hidden rooms, the foulest bathrooms in history, and elegant gatehouse death traps. Hit subscribe and notify, drop your favorite fact below, and tell us which castle myth you want busted next.